And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Welcome to The Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast.
Flippity-jibbity nonsense.
I thought it was terrific.
It's not just big, it's yeah.
Let's go.
Welcome, and thanks for listening to the Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast. My name is Jeff Morey, and I'm your host. This week, I'm diving back into politics, and I'm excited to welcome another great patriot who is running for a very important seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. Her name is Ava Zolari, and she is running for the seat out of Texas' 2nd Congressional District. Why is this seat important, you may ask? Well, this seat is currently held by one of the great congressional RINOs, Dan Crenshaw. You know, the guy with the eye patch who got caught on the live mic saying he wanted to kill Tucker Carlson. That guy. Besides making death threats to Tucker Carlson, Dan is well known for being a neocon, a neoliberal, supporting red flag gun laws, defending insider trading for politicians, and he supports defending Ukraine. So, along with Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and others, RINOs like Dan Crenshaw need to go. And Ava has the chance to primary Crenshaw and take him down. So I'm excited to talk to her, but before I do, let's talk about some of this week's big news stories. In a big win this week, the Supreme Court upheld laws in half the states that ban gender-affirming care for transgender minors. The case was brought to the High Court by children and parents in my home state of Tennessee, who claimed that our state's ban on hormone treatments and puberty blockers discriminated on the basis of sex. The Supreme Court vote was 6-3 along ideological lines, and Chief Justice John Roberts said, quote, "The court's job is only to determine whether the law violates the Constitution's guarantee of equal protection of the law. Having concluded that the law does not unconstitutionally discriminate, that the court leaves these policy questions to the people, their elected representatives, and the democratic process." Thank God for a conservative majority in the Supreme Court and Congress. This is mental illness, folks, plain and simple. A man is born a man and a woman is born a woman. That is how God intended it, and he doesn't make mistakes. It's bad enough to have these woke, mentally ill adults pushing this ideology on us, but it's sad and disgusting that this has to be pushed on our children, our poor, innocent children that depend on us for strength, guidance, and direction. If you needed any more proof that Satan is at work all around us, here you go. The NAACP this week announced that for the first time in 116 years, they will not be inviting the sitting U.S. president to their annual national convention in July. NAACP President and CEO Derek Johnson said at a news conference in Charlotte, North Carolina, where the convention is scheduled to be held, quote, "Donald Trump is attacking our democracy and our civil rights. The president has signed unconstitutional executive orders to oppress voters and undo federal civil rights protections. He continually undermines every pillar of our democracy to make himself more powerful and to personally benefit from the U.S. government." According to many exit polls, President Trump won around 20% of the black vote in the 2024 election. While not a staggering number, that is by far the most of any Republican since 2000 and George W. Bush. I know a lot of black folks that voted for Trump and still support him to this day. So I'm not sure how much George Soros gave Derek Johnson and other leadership from the NAACP, but regardless of how they feel specifically, as leaders of the organization, to me, it would be in their best interest to try to find common ground with whoever the sitting U.S. president is for their benefit and for the benefit of all black people in America. You catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. Just saying. More severe weather across the country and the world to report in this week. In Mexico, Hurricane Eric made landfall early Thursday on the Pacific coast of Mexico as a major Category 3 storm, leaving behind major flash flooding and landslides and leaving over 120,000 without power. The storm is expected to drop between 8 to 12 inches of rain as it continued to move inland over southern Mexico. And in my backyard, portions of Interstate 40 on the Tennessee-North Carolina state line are again closed after massive flooding and rock slides on Wednesday. For those of you that didn't know, this is the exact same area that was just devastated by Hurricane Helene in 2024. Much of I-40 had still been only partially open as crews continued to work around the clock to repair damage from Helene. And now this. If you follow conspiracy circles, there were lots of theories going around surrounding Helene and the damage it caused, and more specifically, the areas it affected and direction of the storm. I can't fully support any claims of weather modification in this area with irrefutable facts yet, but I did see the electrical fields produced from the NEXRAD stations during Helene, and I'm still 100% convinced that someone, be it the federal government or some clandestine organizations, are modifying and targeting severe weather and storms. And I think they've been doing it for a very long time. Listen to my episode on chemtrails and weather modification if you still think this is just a conspiracy theory. And of course, it wouldn't be the news without the ever-changing, ever-worsening situation in the Middle East. Will we launch attacks on Iran and join Israel and risk nuclear war? Will we reach an agreement and some kind of a ceasefire between Israel and Iran? Who knows? White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt teased that a ceasefire may be possible in the coming days and weeks, saying that there have been 6 rounds of direct and indirect negotiations with Iran during the conflict with Israel that first broke out on June 13th. She also read a statement from President Trump saying, quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." I personally have been shocked by the number of warmongers that I have seen from within the MAGA circle that are beating the drums for us to come to Israel's aid and attack Iran. I'll leave my comments and opinions to myself for now until I can gather some more facts for myself. But just remember, as always, the truth is not always what you have been told. Okay, I think that just about covers all the important stuff in the news this week. At this time, I would like to welcome my guest this week, Ava Zolari. Welcome, Ava, and thanks for coming on my show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Before we talk about your race, Crenshaw, and your vision for your district and our country, I have to ask you about this. In the past, you were the victim of a violent crime. I know this is an important topic for you. Would you mind addressing this subject and talking about it?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for asking me. Yeah, there's an issue going on, especially here in Texas. We have district attorneys who are bought out by Soros, who are releasing criminals out. And unfortunately, it caused me to have to do a complete name change, identity change. And I was in hiding for a while. And one of the things it did was suppress me from voting because your voting records become public, your address becomes public. And one of the issues I do want to take to DC is to be able to hide your address and your personal information in your voting records because we have a problem with swatting. We have a lot of influencers, especially on X, are been having a problem with the swatting and the cancel culture, and people need to be protected from that. That needs to be. We have the privacy. We're in the voting booth. The privacy still needs to remain online as well.
Excellent. Could you tell us a little bit more about your background and what made you want to get into politics?
It was a calling. I wasn't, never in my mind did I ever thought about doing politics. It's not a career that is I find appealing. The calling is we have a problem in our country. We have politicians who are career politicians who they lose sight of what they're supposed to do, and they have become, they get tempted by the greed and the power, and it has undermined our liberties and our freedoms, and we really need to change that. And I'm so excited because I am seeing a lot of grassroots movements, and I see a lot of people stepping up to the plate who are not career politicians. They're everyday people, firefighters and police officers and teachers and nurses, and it's exciting to see that because we have suffered. We dealt with the consequences of what our government has done, and we have forgotten that we the people are the government, and we
Amen.
we we keep relying on them for safety. And then if we rely on our government for safety and on certain issues, like we saw with COVID, it can have some detrimental effects on us.
Definitely. I interviewed last week. I interviewed a awesome guy from Arizona, running for a congressional seat, Daniel Keenan, and he was a builder. He doesn't, he doesn't come from a political background, and I'm with you. I love seeing these folks from different backgrounds and different walks of life that are running for Congress and running for the Senate and um, the House, and different even state offices. It's awesome to see because these people, just bring a unique experience and everything and a different vision, I think, for the country than and first and foremost, I don't think they're bought and paid for because that, they came from the bottom and I hate to say it like that, but it's just good to see some different blood coming into, Congress, I would say, I guess at this point. So
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things that I hope that candidates like myself can inspire other people because like right now, especially in Texas, we have a horrid problem, especially in our state legislation. We have a rhino infestation. We have a majority Republican um, House, but they're voting and acting like Democrats. We have a problem with these Islamic enclaves that are going on, and all the things that they brought to the floor, to the session, were all pro-Islamic motives, and it was outrageous. And we do have some good people like Ken Paxton. He's amazing, and he's running for Senate, and he's going against an incumbent who's proven himself to be a rhino. And yeah, so hopefully you can get some more. And and two, I hope these people who are running to make space for the next person. you know
right.
you still have to have some time in Congress and in Senate to, to hold committees and stuff like that. But, put a limit on it and start prepping the next person behind you. So, and then two, people need to surround their Congress members and their elected officials, because that's when I think the temptation creeps in.
Right.
And we and then the sad part is our country has distance itself from God. We need to put God back in the center of this country, and that's the only way we're going to truly, really heal.
100%. That's just the core root of a lot of the problems is people have gotten away from God.
Hmm.
I mean, and that would just fix so much right there if we would just get back to God, our Jesus Christ, first and foremost. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that. That would make the biggest difference in the world. Um, all right, let's talk about some of the issues and where you stand on them. You want to go? Can we run
Sure.
through this real quick? Tell me
Oh
who
yeah.
you're. All right,
Absolutely.
this one I know is so big for your state. You have this massive part of your border that's sitting there on Mexico. Immigration. This is one of the big topics in the news these days, and everything you're hearing about other than Israel and Iran. So, what are your thoughts on immigration and looking forward to the future?
I am so excited about Trump. He's done a great job, but there's so much work still needs to be done. We have some opposition in Texas that are fighting against us and fighting against what needs to be done. Especially again, like I mentioned, the enclaves before. We have we have like Epic City. We have an enclave that isn't in my district, but it touches my district, and it was. It has ties to the cartel. Um, so yeah, there's a lot more to be done. And especially it's a very touchy subject right now with Iran and Israel issue going on, and people need to understand what we're seeing in Texas. Like I said, our house just passed, the first set of bills they passed were all pro-Islamic. And it's people need to understand, mm, Islam is an ideology masked in religion. It does not conform to our constitution, does not conform to our laws, it does not, our judiciary system, nothing. And so what they've been doing is on these enclaves, they're getting these bills passed, which the people who actually initially wrote the bills had really good intentions. Like, I don't remember the bill's name, but there was one particular bill where you can get a third party system to help get you through the licensing process and approval process for any project, but also gives policing power to that third party. And so the intent of that bill was to, bypass government overreach, but now it's, these enclaves are going to be using that to police their areas, and and we're already seeing some consequences from that.
There's a lot of stuff being tucked into these bills lately that you've seen a lot of things. And Marjorie Taylor Greene posted something. I don't know if you saw that a couple weeks ago about AI that was tucked in neatly into a bill about states losing the ability to regulate AI. And this was tucked in. I think that was that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't that tucked into the big beautiful bill somewhere?
Yes, yes.
And that's serious stuff. I'm actually doing a show about that in the next couple of weeks, and I have a guest coming on who's very knowledgeable about that. People don't understand how far along AI is and how dangerous it can be if it's not regulated properly. I've heard reports of a couple of military AIs that are rewriting their own code and that they're having a hard time shutting them down. And little things like this that are being tucked into legislation. That's when you get these 200-page bills that I think we just need to keep it short and simple, and people have to pay attention to this stuff, and good people have to catch these issues, otherwise it's going to get passed and swept under the rug, and nobody will know anything about it.
Well, yeah, the
So
problem is they do these like 3,000-page bills, put it on the desk at the midnight hour, the votes in the morning. I was like, there's no possible way you can go through that and understand what you're voting on. And I think we should have one issue bills, period.
absolutely.
And the people should have a voice on it. Politicians are getting bought out so easily these days, and we need to find a way to mitigate through that and stop it, because like the AI, and I eschatology has been a subject I've studied intensely for the last probably 10 years. And watching AI and how it's going to fulfill some prophecy is, yeah, we need to keep a close eye on what's going on with AI. It's a great tool. It's a
It is.
wonderful.
I mean, I use it for help. I use it with my show art. I mean, it saves me time. I mean, but there needs to be restrictions and limitations to it. I mean, I don't use it a ton, but I mean, it helps me out. I mean, content creators like myself, it saves us time. It helps us with little things that used to I'd have to create everything myself. So, it has its place, but it's definitely reaching another level that I think a lot of people don't understand. So, that we're talking about, this isn't actually something I had on my list of subjects, but it's important and people need to know about it. So,
Oh yeah.
um, all right, next one. This is a big one. This is a hot button for a lot of people on both sides of the aisle. Abortion. Where do you stand on abortion?
I'm very, very firm of where I stand. In fact, that's kind of where I got my notoriety, is I went toe to toe with Chelsea Clinton on the abortion issue. And yeah, I am a dead I'm against abortion completely. I am pro-life all the way.
Great. I mean, there's nothing much to say about that. I agree with you 100%. I just don't understand. I have two beautiful little girls myself, and I just, a life is a life, plain and
Yeah,
simple. So
exactly.
there's no way to say it other than that. You already mentioned this a little bit, but you can elaborate on it. Term limits in Congress.
Yeah, I believe in term limits. It needs to be reasonable. Maybe 6 to 12 years or something to that effect. And two, it's like we need to make room for the next person behind you. And I think and that relies more on the people. That's where people need to get involved and get their person prepped and vetted, and so we know who we are going to be replacing that official with.
Right. All right. Guns and gun laws. Oh, we'll get into Crenshaw a little bit later on some of that, but this is I'm a big gun supporter, so I'm curious where you stood on this.
I am a big gun supporter too, especially, you look at, I lived in California for a little bit, and
That's okay. We won't hold that against you.
I'd say that. I'm a refugee. Um, y- where the gun laws are strictest is where you have the highest gun victims, the highest gun law or the highest crime rate. And it's just, again, it comes back to Christ, like school shootings, it's like, oh, we got to protect the kids, protect the kids. There is a lot of ways to protect the kids from school shooting, but the number one way is to bring Christ back into schools. When they took out prayer, violence went up. And so, but yeah, I am definitely 100% say the Second Amendment. And Trump too, he on February 7th, he on one of his executive orders, he rolled back some of the stuff that Biden had done. And so it's good to see that. And I am proud. I'm a proud Texan, and we don't have to have permits to carry. And it's
Constitutional carry. That's we are in Tennessee too. I love it.
yep,
Yep. Yeah. To me, the best line I've ever seen is guns don't kill people, people kill people. Plain and simple. So,
exactly.
Ukraine.
Ukraine. We need to get out of there. It's to me, from what I understand, it's money laundering.
Yep. Nailed
It
it.
be done.
Yep.
I think Zelensky's just posted today. He needs a reassurance that we give him like 40 or 80 billion dollars a year to make sure that they keep Russia at bay.
At least we're getting some minerals out of them now, if nothing else. So, which
Yeah.
this will kind of lead into the next one I was going to talk about, because I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart, and I always say when something's big is going on, like the war in Israel and Iran, they're a lot of times they're distracting you from something else. I
Mhm.
hate to say that, but that's the next one I'm gonna ask you about is Israel and Iran and your thoughts on that. And I guess we're gonna kind of looming here on what Trump's going to decide to do in the next couple months. I don't know, if you support a side or how your thoughts are on it, but this is major, major implications for our future.
Sadly, this subject is putting a damper on the conservative movement, because there is a big rift going on right now,
Yeah.
and people need to definitely take a step back and look at it from all perspectives. I can see both sides, and I can understand why both sides. You have people who hate APAC, but then you have people. Everybody's blaming Ted Cruz. Oh, he's bought and paid for by APAC, and then you have Tucker Carlson, who's being accused of being a mouthpiece for Qatar. And I have a lot of faith in Trump. I don't agree with him on 100% of everything, but pretty close. And when he accepted that plane from Qatar, my knee-jerk reaction was like, I don't like this. But now seeing the bigger picture and seeing more events have happened, and this is speculation. This is just my belief, and
Right.
piecing things together is that um he took that plane from Qatar, and understanding the culture there, it, you know, for me, our culture kind of like, well, now they've got him pigeonholed, but if their culture. No, he's got them pigeonholed. And I have a feeling he knew what was going to happen in Iran from Israel, and he knew that was going to happen. And again, being in Texas and see what's going on and seeing what's going on in Europe, there is a huge, I mean, the Muslim population is booming. They're having babies, they're having children, and they've basically have taken over London and some beautiful European cities and countries, and they have full intent to do it here in the United States. And so you have Qatar funding a lot of these fringe movements in Islam, and that includes using Iran. Um, First of all, I want everybody to understand the people of Iran, the majority of them, I love them. They're awesome people. They're oppressed. 1979, it just totally flipped on them. And we need to pay attention to what went on in Iran, because we almost had it here. And if we're not careful, we're going to have it here. But as a Christian, I love Israel. That is a beautiful country. There is so much amazing, beautiful history with that. I support them defending themselves, but God placed us in America, so it's America first. But giving them support, I have no problem with giving them support. I don't think Israel or us should put any boots on the ground, because its terrain is horrible and the war is fought different now.
Absolutely.
Um, and they should not have nuclear weapons, because they are a threat to us. The Ayatollah has threatened our president how many times, and has sent, assassinations and the propaganda. So we have to come to have conversations, respectfully, the whole, Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson, who I both have always admired, and, to see them bicker the way they did, this was not supportive of America, period.
Yeah, we need to find some kind of solution for sure. There's good people in both countries. Let's just be honest, and
Mhm.
we just need to find some kind of resolution that doesn't involve them shooting each other, hopefully. So, um, and this war is going to have a major effect on my next one, which I was going to ask you about, with the current state of the economy and the economy moving forward, and your vision of that for your term and for the future.
Trump's doing a really good job. I'm seeing it in the grocery stores. I'm feeling, fancy when I can buy a steak now and then. But we could see a hit on oil prices here coming here pretty soon. So, I mean, a war could be good and could be bad for economy. So, hopefully it'll affect us in the positive. I agree with him on the tariffs. I hope we see an elimination of income tax. And you look at Dubai, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. She said that, she goes, we have over 200 trillion in assets in this country. There's no reason we should be over $30 billion in debt. And I think we need to really look at that and get rid of income tax and see, utilize our assets and stop being everybody's nanny, and, supporting people like, Zelensky.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. I support the tariffs. I mean, the liberals are having a field day, when they have ever since Trump took office with it. But I mean, to me, it's just common sense. A country tariffs us, we tariff them back the same amount. I don't see why that's such a hard concept. I mean, yeah, and it's not gonna. They just got to understand this isn't gonna. This isn't gonna day one. This is a process, and it's
Right.
gonna take time. And I'm, even though, as a blue collar guy myself, it's hurt me. I'm a truck driver. That's what I do when I'm not podcasting, and it hurts, but I know for the bigger picture and for the long term, it's what needs to be done. And I think people just
Right.
need to realize that. So, um, all right, midterms and keeping a Republican controlled Congress. This is 100% up your alley, because this is you here coming up soon. So,
I Oh my gosh. I'm disappointed what we're seeing. codifying his executive orders, and the especially with Doge. I mean, Doge has done an amazing job, and I'm hoping. I know everybody has been giving Bondi a lot of grief, but in order to do a grand jury, it takes 10 to 12 months. So, and then she's got to do everything meticulously. And then she's got to do that. And then she's got to find out who's who. And then we've got the judges that we need to comb through. So there's a lot that she's done. So if we can get her to do that, and if we can see some movement soon, I think midterms might change and we might see some Trump getting the trifecta that we all hoped and voted for. But I see a lot of rhinos being removed. I see Lindsey Graham being gone. John Cornyn is definitely gone. And stuff like that. And I'm excited to see what happens. And I hope people realize that they will take, I have already had a smear campaign against me, that they will take a closer look and actually reach out to the candidates and find out exactly what had happened and find out the truth. And you know, it's difficult. And especially if you're trying to, you don't have large money backing you, it doesn't mean that candidate's not viable, or we have to get behind it, and we have to find a way to get candidates voted for who are ethical, God-based, strong in their faith, and just get behind them. It doesn't really take money, it takes getting involved.
Right. Speaking of voting and all that, it rolls into the last one I was going to ask you about. I think I know where you stand on this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Voter ID and voter registration.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that we saw in California. So Gavin Newsom, which I know he's a hot topic right now, he won by 1,000,000 votes, is in his first term, and their Judicial Watch found 1.5 extra million votes in LA County alone. And I know when I was renewing my driver's license, every other page that came up, do you want to register to vote, register to vote? And so they were registering 16-year-olds. I think there was even a dog that was registered to vote. So yeah.
A lot of work to be done there.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of work. And that's going to be major, making sure that our votes count and the people that are voting, we don't have illegals voting, and the people that need to vote are voting, basically. So
Yeah.
I'm all for paper ballots personally. I think we just need to
Yeah.
go back to paper and get rid of the electronic machines, because it's been proven they've been hacked. There was a guy that went, in Georgia, that literally sat down, and I don't know if you saw that story a while back, and he literally hacked the machine in court in front of him. So, I mean, it's been proven. So,
Oh, yeah. Well, Mike Lindell, he just got done with a Dominion voting
yeah,
lawsuit. Fortunately, I mean, they didn't find My Pillow at fault, but they did, sue him. But I think he needs to go back and appeal it, because now that the suit's done, all this information is coming out, which we all knew, because none of it made sense.
right.
But yeah, I would like to see paper ballots too.
Definitely. All right. Let's talk about the man you were trying to take down in the Republican primary, the RINO pirate, Dan Crenshaw. I talked in my intro about his record, including supporting red flag gun laws, wanting to continue funding Ukraine, defending insider trading, as well as the well-documented hot mic altercation where he basically threatened Tucker Carlson. Can you talk about it? What would mean for you to defeat him in the Republican primary and move on to take his seat in Congress?
He has really upset this district. When he first ran, we all had so much hope in him. We were excited for his run. I mean, I think that's one of the issues I think people need to understand. We accept, we want somebody to be our hero and to save us, but somebody gets put on a high pedestal, they fall really hard. And unfortunately, he's been not only on the stuff that you mentioned, but he's been attacking his base. He's gone on Twitter and Twitter rants against cat turd against John Rich. And there was even one video where he was doing a town hall and there was a young girl. She was asking him a question about, he made a comment about Jesus and putting him in the same category as like Superman and other superheroes. And he started berating her. And, it's just, and then, combined with the insider trading and yeah, it's just, uh, I feel bad for him. I really do. I really do. I think, when you serve, you see a lot of stuff that you probably it's hard to handle and it's hard to deal with. But you start digging into his background before he served. There's a lot of sneaky stuff too, tied with
I've heard bits and pieces about that.
yeah, he's tied to the World Economic Forum. He went to, oh gosh, there was a college he went to that's tied to the oh, I better not say because I don't want to get messed up.
That's all right. That's all right. Folks can do their own research. So
Yeah.
yeah, I hate that. I mean, he's a military veteran. You want to support your veterans, but as much as I hate to say it, that doesn't automatically make you a good person. So,
Yeah.
and unfortunately that's the case in this. I mean, when I first saw him coming into office too, I had high hopes for him, and I don't know. He's turned out to be one of the true blue-blooded rhinos in Congress. So anyway, I understand you have a big event coming up this week you wanted to talk about. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and in line going with my campaign, we are starting a group called Constitutional Commission, and it is to help others start their own campaigns and help them get involved at different levels, whether it be especially in Texas right now, we have GOP chairs that are open. I think 40% of our GOP chairs are just unmanned. And so people need to get involved at that level. And so what we're trying to do, and then to inform people what's going on with the targeting of Texas from the Islamic, from the Muslims that are trying to they've flat out said they're trying to take over. So it's to educate people on the Constitution, educate them on how they can, serve in some capacity at all different levels, and to kind of understand what's going on, and where our enemies lie, because wars are not fought with just bombs and guns anymore. There is a major war going on in this country. One, most important, the spiritual warfare that's going on, which we can all, we all need to fight it, with prayer and serving God, being salt and light, and and serving our country that was given to us. It's a blessing. So yeah, we're having that at 7 o'clock on Friday night. And it is going to be at the Honor Cafe in Conroe.
Awesome. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. How can we support you and your campaign moving forward?
You can visit me at www.avazolari.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Ava. I appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. It was a pleasure being here today. Thank you very much.
That's my show for this week. I want to thank my guest, Ava Zolari, for joining me. This is an important race. Dan Crenshaw was one of our country's great congressional rhinos. It needs to be replaced with someone who has our country and its core values in mind first. It's time we kick out the Dan Crenshaws, Lindsey Grahams, Mitch McConnells, and the rhinos that put China, Ukraine, and special interests first over our country and its people. You can donate to help Ava on her website, avazolari.com. Follow Ava on her social media accounts and follow me on all mine: Facebook, X, YouTube, Blue Sky, Instagram, at Politic Prepper, or email me at thepppodcast@yahoo.com. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast. your source for real news and analysis on politics, prepping, paranormal, conspiracy theories, and the volatile state of the world we live in. Tune in next week and every week for a new episode, and stay safe, stay healthy, and stay vigilant.